answering the main questions. Well, what we will do after is we will take a few questions from the floor, and if there are any questions that you want to ask regarding the session, you can ask at the end. I might be able to open up the mic if there are not too many questions, but if it's in the chat room, it's a lot more easier. We can look up at it and answer. But important thing is that we may not be able to accommodate if there are people who've not really got onto the full session. So just make sure that if you are in the room, just go through the full session and make sure you have listened through everything, and then you can start your questions. Okay. So with that note, I will go to the primary reason why I called for this meeting. One of the most important aspects that I get from a FoodWatch perspective is the questions that come from the team. And thanks to all of you, you always ask questions, which is a great thing to do. And also, I'm glad that inspectors are okay. Someone is saying no voice. I do not have a voice problem. Mylene, can you confirm voice is okay?
Yes, Bobby, voice is okay. Kindly check your audio setting. Maybe you just need to activate button on the audio setting.
Right. So Mylene, continue to admit until we start the session. Okay. So what I was looking at is those questions coming in from inspector side and from prompted by the inspection violations, and corresponding it with what the team is understanding. And there is a FAQ that is on the FoodWatch platform, which we will be continuously updating based on the questions you ask. So regardless of whatever you feel, whatever your team has, please make sure that you continue to ask the questions. So this is not to discourage you from asking questions. It is to encourage you from asking questions, and so that we can address them. Because if you have a question, you can now know that 100 others have the same question, because that's what happened in the group today. So and that's why these groups and forums are really important. So thanks again for joining in such a short notice. I wish I could do this, but then it's always better addressed at the same time that we have the question. So let's look at the primary principles of FoodWatch. And Mylene, you don't need to share the screen now, so I'll tell you when it can be found. Okay, so the primary questions regarding FoodWatch are always concerned about, like, what is that thing that I need to enter into the FoodWatch platform? And the answer to that question comes from your understanding of food safety management system and how you do the work with your team to meet the objectives of the food safety system. So think about what you want to achieve in a day, and in a day you want to make sure that all the food processes operate and deliver the food safety outcomes that you want. So if you look at the outcome of your cleaning schedule and a cleaning program, you have a team of members, you already have recruited them, you've already have put them through training, and you've put a schedule for them, you've put a program for them, and your objective is to make sure that all equipments are clean before the process starts, right? So when I start using my slicing machine, the last thing I want to do is to find a dirty slicing machine. If I want to use water from the tap, the first thing I'm going to do is look at the filter, look, everything is okay, not visibly dirty. Look at whether it is warranty schedule. Is it scheduled for cleaning? Is it scheduled for a removal or a replacement? Look at that date and confirm everything is okay. That's what I do. Like when I walk around, that's the first thing I do. I confirm everything is okay before the start of business. As the process progresses, there are certain things which I cannot see during the start of the business, and these are operational ones. So, for instance, a chiller, I can look in the morning, and that's probably the best time to look at, because chillers have been working in the night. So when you come in the first time in the morning, you go to the chiller and you take a food and you see that the food is at 10 degrees centigrade. You know that at the night, the chiller was not working properly because nobody opened the door. But if you see the same chiller operating at 10 degrees centigrade and the food is at 10 degrees centigrade during the peak of your business, it could be anything. It could be like someone put the food inside there and they brought it from a warmer place. They put it outside and they put it back. And that is not really an indicator of whether your process and equipment is functional. So the morning checks are a confirmation that the process that you're doing is accurate. Now comes the second stage. In the second stage, you get onto the processes and you say, how my process is working. So I have a hot holding process that happens at noon when my lunch is ready. And if I put my lunch at 12 p.m., I don't go in and immediately check whether the food is right. Okay, I can check whether the water inside the water bath is ready. But if it's not a water bath, you only going to check whether the equipment is functional, right? So you go with the heater, you see whether the sensors are working properly. And if it's not a heater, if you're adding something like, if you're just fueling it with petrol, then you might say that, okay, this equipment is functional. And it's not a technical equipment, but it is something that you can add fire or remove fire, increase the heat. But basically what you're doing is, if you don't have water, you can understand the nature of the food only after 15 to 20 or 30 minutes after the process starts. So if you have a food sitting in the buffet for 2 hours, you're not going to go and start checking right after the food is coming, because that's not the temperature of the hot holding. That is the temperature of the food that is coming into the system. So in this case, you will see whether your cooking is completed and your holding is correct outside, but you're not expected to do an ambient holding. What happens is that you will bring the product and you will put it on the hot holding equipment and see whether that hot holding equipment is capable of giving 60 degrees centigrade throughout the process. So to re-emphasize, when you start the business, when you walk in, you go around and see whether cleaning is done. You go around and see whether the equipment that are not, like functional at that time are working and they're ready to function. But there are so many equipments which are always functioning. Water tank filter is a clean example of that, because it's always functional, because you can see that in the morning. So any equipment that is functional, you can verify. And we would really recommend you to go for chillers, freezers in the morning, because that's the best time to look at the chillers. And then you can also do it during operational time, because it's also important to find out whether these chillers are operating at low temperature or high temperature, whatever you've specified. For instance, if you have a sushi grill, sushi chiller, you might want to keep the fish at a set temperature, not just during the process, but also not just in the morning, but also during the process. So hot holding, display chillers are all very important during the process. So at that time, you need to make sure that the display items are at temperature, and hot holding would be considered as a display, because that is an in-process thing. So if it is not a part of the process, then you check it in the morning and you confirm everything is okay. But if it is a part of the process, then you check during the process. So your equipments like chillers and freezers go in the beginning, and your display chillers and your hot holding equipment come after the food is placed for a certain time. And you have to internally decide how many times you're going to check this. This should be a part of your critical control point monitoring program. So when you mark certain processes as critical, you need to say, okay, Mylene, I got some mic on.
Oh, कितना है सर? Check किया आपने कुछ है?
Okay, someone is not listening. All right, so if you have a critical process, then what you need to do is identify those critical processes from your hazard plan, identify that this is the monitoring I do, and clearly identify when this monitoring has to be done. So if you identify hot holding as a process, you need to identify which type of foods would you store in hot holding and at what time I will be checking it. And of course, you need to do a check after the food has spent time in the hot holding, not at the time you place the food all the time, because that is not a hot holding temperature. So that's just re-emphasizing what is important for you. So look at what you want to achieve and then set the process. So now look at all these questions. So in the morning, I will start off with my opening check. So Mylene, can you share the opening checks? Or I can do that from the, so use a food service check here. We have EC inspection, Arabic and English, Arabic and Malayalam for smaller businesses, but all food service businesses are supposed to have these service checks, which are already linked to your system. So go in here and go with the service checks. So the first thing you need to look at is, are there any food handlers? Mylene, can you remove the unmute option for the people? Thank you.
Bobby, I'll just say, because right now I have the EC inspection.
Okay, I've got someone unmuting occasionally. Timur
okay.
is unmuting all the time because it gives me noise background. But, okay.
Okay, wait.
So,
I'll just
so this is the
make
easy inspection. I want food service inspection.
the food service. Okay, I'll just change it to food service.
So, Mylene, can you also show them how to change to food service if they have this inspection? But they
Okay.
can't change it, right? It's by default, right? So if you're a
Right
hotel,
now,
then by default they will get the business.
they will get the food service
Yeah.
business by default.
So for those of you who do not understand what EC inspection is designed for businesses that are very small and they do not have the competency to have delegations. Say for not competencies that do not have a framework for delegations. Say for instance, you only have like 3 people working in the kitchen. There is no need to delegate to a stewarding department or a cleaning department or to another PIC. That way, you don't need to have an action as a continuous thing. You only designate one person and that person will do the inspection. So if you have very small outlets where you do very minimal business, you can always set that outlet to EC inspection. And it also gives you it also gives you option to change anytime to food service or logistics, depending on what you want to achieve, okay? So if you take this option, then you go to food service. By default, most of you would have food service as an option. So let's look at inspection item by item.
Okay, Bobby, this is now the food service business inspection checklist.
Okay, so in the checklist, there are a few things to do. So let's look at how you would go with the checklist. First of all, are there any food handlers with symptoms of food poisoning or COVID-19? So in this check, the PIC has to do this at the beginning of the shift. Now, whoever is doing this has to go around, look at all the employees. You don't need to mark each employee into the system. What you need to check is there anyone who is an exception, who does have a problem, is when you report the illness. And in this report, you select the name of the person and you confirm. Now, when you select only one person among the 20 people in the shift, Mylene, I think I need to remove the person who is unmuting continuously. So
okay, wait, I'll just, okay.
Okay, you're okay. So anyone who is sick has to be marked up. But when you confirm that only one person is sick, you're also confirming the other employees are not sick. So that's also important. So if you have marked only one, it also means that other people do not have a problem. So that is how you go with the rule of exception. So if you say nobody is sick, that means you have checked everyone and you did not find anyone with sickness. So if an inspector is asking, did you do a sickness check? If you have marked here that you did not find anyone, that means that you've checked everyone and you did not find anyone. So you can tell the inspector that I've already confirmed that, or the PIC can confirm that I already confirmed nobody was ill. Now, what happens if an inspector finds somebody who is having a contagious disease in the kitchen? They're going to mark a violation for both employing the person and also for a PIC for confirming the wrong thing, because they should have found out this at the time of the check. The same rule applies to the next violation also. Uniform should be clean at the start of the shift. Now, if uniform is meant to be getting dirty, that's fine. It's slightly dirty is okay. But if the inspector comes in and finds that inspection violation there, that uniform is completely dirty, and it indicates that the dirt came from not having sufficient uniforms or not maintaining the uniforms really well or not using the aprons, and it can contaminate the food, they're going to mark the violation. And if the root cause is that the person did not have sufficient uniforms, then that violation will go against the PIC for not actively managing food safety and confirming the wrong things on Food Watch, because you confirm something which is against what happened. So that violation is also dealt with the same way. Now you can look at the other processes from there. So now let's look at personal hygiene practices. That's something which you cannot control on Food Watch. That is by observation, but if you see something, report it. If you see that there is a problem, do that. Hand washing is another thing. When you go into the morning, hand wash station has to be treated like an equipment. So you need to make sure that hand wash station is functional. And if it is not functional, you can either report from here or report from the equipment check. So both places you can do hand wash stations. It depends on how you want to do that. Now here, if you say that liquid soap and water and facilities available, you're confirming that everything is okay. During the day, you have 4 times to report these things. So at any point of time, if this goes wrong, and if you've reported it, the inspector gives you a waiver, provided you have alternate measures to ensure hand washing is done. Say, for instance, suddenly it didn't stop, it stopped working. You need to have an alternate measure for hand washing, and you should be able to show the inspector that I marked it as not working the moment I found it, and an action has been initiated for the team to continue. So that is how you need to look at it. Cleanliness of food premises. So many people ask me today, how do I make sure that the cleaning schedule is monitoring? Now, here's where you can come and intervene. In the day, 4 times you can say your cleaning was done properly. It must be at the start of the work, because that's when you start. At any time when you do periodic checks, we don't expect anybody to walk around every 15 minutes to check whether the cleaning is okay. But a walk around from the PIC is recommended at least 4 times in a day, if you can. If it's less, it's fine, as long as it's clean. But if you expect problems to be higher, then the person has to walk around and see whether there is a problem. If there is a cleaning problem, report it. So when you say that everything is clean, it means that you verified and you did not find the problem. So you don't need another record to show that everything is clean. You need to show that I verified everything, and that's why I confirmed other thing. Now, if you have not confirmed, then what you do is you report, right? And in the report, you can say that I found this problem and I take an action. So it's a very simple tool, not to overburden the system. You don't need hundreds of records to do this. You only need 1 record for an action. So the question to the team is, it doesn't matter how many times you confirm. We require you to confirm at least 4 times in a day, or maximum 4 times in a day. But if there is a problem, make sure that you have reported it, because that report is what gives you the trend. That report tells the PIC that every day in the butchery at 10 a.m., I'm having a problem. Maybe I need to increase my cleaning. Maybe I need to find new chemicals which are not working. So based on the data, you need to make sure your actions are correct. So if you do not take the actions based on the schedule, then there's no point in doing the checks. So it doesn't matter how many times you check. If you do 4 checks in a day, that is much more than enough to confirm your system is working. So look at the system improvement here, and not just saying that, there are 100 equipment, so I need to mark every equipment like this. You have the option to do that. So you can go to any equipment, you can mark that dirty or clean. So from the opening check, all the PICs have this functionality, and you must use it. Then you go to the equipments. So as I told you earlier, you can look at your display equipments, you can look at your chillers, make sure each one of them is functioning, and then if there is a problem, report it. But if you say that everything is functional, that means you've checked all the equipment and none of them have a problem, not the other way around. Okay, so your job as a PIC is to walk around, make sure everything is clean, and then tell us if there is a problem, let us report it. If there is no problem and you found that everything is correct, that's when you say cleanliness of the equipment is right. Okay, so that is a mandatory requirement. Same with the condition of the chiller. So there is one for cleanliness, and then there's one for the functionality. So you can use both. Storage temperature of the food is also important. So we have distinguished the equipment from the food. So one is confirming the equipment is working. Second is the food inside the equipment is working. And I've seen many businesses reporting the chiller temperature as food temperature. So here we are giving the message to the PIC that it is not the chiller that is only important thing. It is the food inside that matters, because sometimes you put a large container of hot food inside the chiller, the entire chiller temperature is going to go drop down, right? Drop high. So what you need to do is you need to tell them that I want temperature of the food to be checked. And if there is any food temperature deviations, record it. If there is no problem, you're confirming that you've checked everything and you did not find a problem. Our food protects from contamination. So what you're doing here is you're going around and looking at what are the foods that are to be checked, and then making sure that the food is covered, clean, wrapped, and also stored appropriately. Like where there is a storage requirement where a leak would be problematic for cross contamination, you need to make sure that that's protected. So if everything is protected, you say everything is all right. You also have segregation rules. You need to make sure that the products are segregated, unfit foods are replaced, labeled. All these are part of your checks every day. Cleaning and disinfection chemicals and tools are available. So make sure that your dispensers are working properly, dosage systems are working properly, your equipments are sufficient. And when you confirm that it is there, that means that you've checked, verified, and confirmed this is there. So do not confirm unless you have verified. So anything that you check here is a confirmation that that is fully functional and it's available. Now, whether a PIC does it, a technical expert does it, that's confirmation that you're giving to the system, and you're telling yourself and the team that when I start the business, everything is okay. With pest activity, you have to report the pest activity to the contractor. By Dubai Municipality's regulation, there is a contract requirement. So you need to make sure that the supplier is added from the supplier management platform. And if there is a problem that is reported, then by reporting through the FoodWatch, you're making the company accountable because they are bound by the contract because of the Dubai Municipality requirement. So it is important that they follow the requirement. And that's why this is a must on the FoodWatch, because it also tells us whether the problem has been solved. If not, we can take action against the pest control company, remove their permission if they're not doing the job properly. So if a company has got problems and they're not responding to you, your pest problems will increase. The amount of money you spent on pests is substantially higher than any other service in your food facility, right? Chemicals and pests contribute to one of the most biggest expenses for hotels. Like an average expense per month, it runs into thousands, So you want to make sure that that service is offered by the company in a proper way. So that helps you. Condition of transportation vehicles. So if you see a transportation vehicle problem, you can report it. Now, someone asked me, what about the delivery temperatures? So here's where you need to check, whether if you're a catering company, you need to check whether your vehicles are working properly. Maybe the vehicles are not in the morning, but you can do a check later when the vehicles come in. You can check whether your vehicles are able to deliver the food properly by looking at the temperature. Now, if you're accepting a delivery, that's not where you go. Here is when you offer the delivery, okay? So this is the easiest part. So just to recap, all the checklist items in this are pointing at what are you supposed to do. Anything that you confirm here takes into account that you're verified and you're confirmed. Do not mark this as verified if you're not verified. So Mylene, if it is not verified, what do you take as an option? Mylene, can you show the drop down? Mylene, the drop down, one of the drops down.
Go okay, up. Bobby.
Okay. So if you're not verified, then put the remark that I could not verify so that you can at least see that what happened. But if you have a problem, make sure that you record it. So get your PICs to say that this is a serious job, and whatever you do has to be marked properly so that the business can take an action. Okay. So without taking this list seriously, you cannot utilize the system effectively. So if you do not check, do not mark. That's the rule. Don't worry if you are not able to mark, but do not fill up 100 documents when your system indicates a failure. So if you mark this as correct, and if the inspector finds a problem that comes because you did not check, if the inspector finds it faster than you do, then you are at stake. That is when your violations are going to be marked. But if you find a problem and if you take the corrective action, so if you find that the chiller was checked in the morning and you took the action to make sure that the food was removed and put in a right chiller, then you get the benefit of that action. That's where you protect the food and you show the inspector that I have taken the action, and the record of that evidence is on FoodWatch. That evidence is the due diligence we are talking about. All right, so that's step number 2. So now we go to food delivery check. So imagine you finished everything, you've done your checks, now you go into the food delivery checks and you check what happened in the delivery. Mylene, food deliveries, please. So there are 2 ways where you can enter the temperature of food deliveries. One is from the food delivery checks option. Here, you do this normally to report that to a supplier because the vehicle data is also within FoodWatch. So when you are reporting a vehicle, the RTA can also take an action later if that vehicle is not capable of delivering, then their permit can be cancelled because the vehicle continuously delivers food at the wrong temperature. So it's a very, very preventative system. Going back into the olden days, when you write a record on your paper saying that XY ABC company delivered food at 20 degrees centigrade instead of 5, nobody sees this. You have to go call the guy, the driver went out to answer, then you call the supplier manager, you run an email. Nobody looks into this. But today, when you mark a violation, the system doesn't immediately take an action, but it records what happened in the problem. So you say delivery is rejected, and then you select the food temperature as an issue, and then select notify the supplier. And then the supplier knows that because of poor temperature, or because of a temperature deviation, a notification has been received. So it is a double action here, not just for your company, but also to the supplier to take action so that next delivery is taken care of. In this case, it already triggers a point. And also it goes as a record for that vehicle, so that that vehicle is also under a radar. So if 5 hotels are rejecting a vehicle, that means that we have enough data to check whether that vehicle is able to deliver, and we can do a recertification for that vehicle if required. So that's the whole point of doing this job, right? And also it ensures that the vehicles that are not registered are not delivering food, because if your supplier is likely to send products which are not registered, they are likely to use an unregistered vehicle as well. So it's a very important part of your check. It doesn't matter what you check. If your supplier is not registered, it means that that vehicle is not traceable. So it is a food security risk. It's a food defense risk. It is also, a threat to your food safety, because if that vehicle is not traceable, there's no point in doing any checks, because you're already using a non-verified vehicle. So don't expect food safety compliance. So if you have a problem, all this can be questioned. So your deliveries will be questioned. So here again, it's a preventative system. So now this is notifying the supplier. Now let's go into the other process. So earlier we looked at the equipment, and I told you, you can check all the equipments in the morning and make sure that they are ready for the process. Now, if they are ready for the process, you can do two things, right? One is you can look at the process check. So now you go back to your hazard and look at your critical control points, select the processes that you want to check, and we've listed all the critical control points in the system. We also have new process checks coming in, which will be implemented in June, which will be more advanced. You'll get more features. But until that time, manage with these, because these are meant to be very simple. So imagine you are hot holding, as I told you earlier. You're hot holding the food. Do not go and check the temperature immediately after it is placed on the hot holding equipment. That is not the rule. So your staff is expected to know when to check the temperature also. So if they see that the temperature is high after 1 hour of the food is put, it is fine if it's a hot holding equipment. But if you see that the temperature is going down steadily from 60 to 50 in half an hour, that means that is a breach, right? So here is when you need to write. Now, that doesn't mean that PIC has to stop checking or only do 4 checks. A PIC is supposed to walk around with the thermometer, check everything is okay, record at least 1 to show that you've checked it, and record the high-risk items. And if there is a deviation on any day, it must be recorded on report. So if there is a problem, you must record. If there is no problem, you can do 4 foods and keep going. So when you don't record, it means that you failed the morning equipment checklist and the process checklist, and still you've not recorded anywhere. So you missed the first 4 checks in the morning, or 4 checks before the start of the shift. And also you missed the 4 checks that you're supposed to do with food for your different processes. And then, Miley, do we have a limit on how many process checks can we do?
There's no limit, Bobby, for the process check, only for the startup inspection.
So for process check, there is no limit. You can check
no limit, yes.
Any number of processes. So you can take 1 sample per day, 1 critical process, have an agreement with your team. And if there are processes that you need to check often because you expect a failure, check more of those. That is what critical control point management is about, right? So if there are critical processes, if you are serving to a children nursery, you might want to do more frequently. Food select column is not working because you've not added food. Mylene, we can talk about that later. But if the select food option is not there, that means you've not added any food item to your database. Then you go into temperatures and you record your temperatures. And if you don't find any problem, you don't need to do any action, right? But if you find a problem, you take the next action and report. So that is how process check has to work. So do a check for all critical processes as many times as possible, but doesn't matter how many times you do, but if there is a problem, you must record it. And if there is a process problem, the next thing you do is an equipment problem, right? So you go back to the equipment. So today at 12 p.m., if I find that a process check is indicating hot holding temperature at 50, the next thing I do is go to the equipment and flag the equipment. Right, now go to the equipment check. Okay, so in equipment check, there are a few things you need to understand. One is there are different types of equipment. Hand wash basin can be an equipment. Bain-marie can be an equipment. Water filter can be an equipment. Air conditioner can be an equipment. Anything that could have an impact on your process or the surroundings can be an equipment. There's no limit as to what you can add. Now, if I select blast chiller as an equipment, I can mark where blast chiller is working. If I select chiller as an equipment, I can use any combination to tell the problem. So for instance, select the chiller, Mylene. Okay, normal chiller, yeah. So in chiller, I've got the chiller from the cooking area. So I've selected it. And I go to the right, and then I select, it is calibrated. So what does it mean if I say the product is calibrated? It means that I check the calibration record and I make sure that it is valid. And if I don't see that calibration record is valid, Mylene, what am I supposed to do? I will take the drop down and I say it is not calibrated, and then move on, right? So you can say that you don't need to mark. Your status would be actually not working or working properly. If it is not, if you don't mark it as calibrated, that means it's not calibrated. That's what it is. So if you have an issue there, what you need to do is to mark and then take the next action. Mylene, go to the right. Equipment for calibration, right? So here you can say that the equipment is not working, and then click on done, and it goes for the calibration check and it records the history, right? So the logic seems to be a bit messy there. Okay, so anyway, you take the calibrated option, and then you can say the equipment has to be sent for calibration in the process. So that means that you verified the calibration records and you found a problem and you're sending it for calibration. Now, if you do not have a calibration problem, you can still put as no action required and you don't need to do anything. But if you find a calibration issue, you need to check. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be checking. You should check the equipments, make sure that all of them are calibrated, and then mark a problem if it is not calibrated and take the next action. So that's how it works. Then if you do a process check and you find a problem, you must attend to the equipment, because if you see a hot holding problem, you need to report it here and make sure that next follow-up action is taken for the equipment. So if you see hot holding, report the binary and go ahead and do this. Now, what does it mean to you if you record the binary as a problem and next day morning, I look at the process check and the PIC says everything is working? It means that they don't checked or they've not followed up what happened on the previous day, right? So that is one thing that you need to be aware of. And maybe they will miss it in the morning because they didn't see the hot holding equipment. But at afternoon, during the functional time, the PIC also confirms that the equipment is not functional. So you could have a double reporting for an equipment, which comes both in the PIC's history and also the process check history from another PIC. If it's a recurring problem, you will be able to find that very easily from the history. So when an inspector is looking at the history, they're looking at whether there is a problem in the history or not. You can do the same for water tank also. So if the water tank is an equipment, treat it as an equipment. Water filters can be treated as an equipment. Water storage tanks can be treated as an equipment. There are multiple things you can do. And if the water tank is not clean, you just go in, add a water tank if you have a checkpoint, and then select water tank in the, we have a filter, right, Mylene? Water filter? Do you have water filter in the list?
Yeah, yes, Bobby. Yes.
Okay, so you select water filter.
Right now,
okay, you can add it.
I need to add it on this entity.
Okay, so any entity, you can add a water filter, you can put a number, you can put filter number 1, filter number 2, and then you go here, select the status. Water filter is visibly dirty. It is visibly dirty, Mylene. Visibility, no. I think there's a spell check there.
Okay.
Or just put dirty, that's spelling error. Okay, visibly dirty, there's no temperature implication, and then you select equipment for maintenance or no action, whatever you want, equipment for maintenance. So you can just put that, and you can just go for a replacement or whatever it is, and then you follow up with action. So you can use different combinations. And if you have anything to be added, let us know. Like we can add that in the action. So maybe you want to say equipment for replacement, we can add that as a value. But there is no way you can miss these checks, because in any combination you can find all these things. So it's not about adding as many tables and columns. It's about using the existing framework to manage your work. That's how technology works. Technology doesn't adopt to you. You have to look at how technology can be used better with minimal input. So looking at these things, you have an idea about what can be done, what can be modified, what can be achieved, and then you go for those changes. So if there is a water tank problem, then how do you address that? So for instance, you check your water tank once in a month, somebody goes up and cleans. And if you have a cleaning problem, what you do is go to the left of the toolbar. Mylene, water tank cleaning request. Okay. Now, go to contract services. Here, you will be prompted to select your contractor when you select water tank cleaning. So you need to make sure that your contracting company is on your supplier's dashboard. So if you have not contacted with anybody, you will not find here. But if you select the pest control or green, is there any other contract service available? Right? Okay, so simple as that. Mylene, can you show them how a contract can be added?
Okay, Bobby.
So you can see the history of the contracts here. So if an inspector asks you for a water tank cleaning contract and a confirmation that water tank cleaning has been done, go to the history and show that water tank cleaning has been done by this time. And the contracting company can, contract cleaning companies can do that. Now, here's a question that I can see on the top. Now, if you cannot verify the water tank, just say that you're not verifying the water tank. We don't need your record. The question is, if you are verifying the water tank, you have to record it. Now, if you're not verifying the water tank, how do you ensure that the water that you're delivering is safe? So you can write in the process check, you can write in the food check. Checking the water can be a part of your food check. You can say the water was checked and it was dirty, or you are using filters, you can report the filters. If you do not have a water tank cleaning mechanism, you have to discuss with the mall and find out who is cleaning and then mark with that company. So you have to find a way to make sure that your water is potable. Do not shift the responsibility to malls, because malls is not a unanimous figure that you need to be worried about. Every mall should have a process also. So you need to make sure that that contract is a part of your process, and you have to have mechanism to ensure that water tank cleaning is done by someone, and you have to have a cleaning. That's why we didn't mandate that check. But if you are doing, then make sure that you are contracted to do this. So in a sense, these are the things that I wanted to address. If there is anything missing, I will go and look at it before I open the floor to questions. So let me look at the questions that we had. Okay, water tank covered, water tank filters covered. Calibration certificates are not required on FoodWatch, but there is an option in the equipment that we didn't open. That is because certification companies are not required to enter the data, and we do not know how many certificates are there. So you cannot add. Mylene, the calibration option is not open, right?
Not yet, Bobby. Not yet.
Yeah, but we have it as a functionality, but we don't want to open it until until this time, you can say that if you confirm that calibration is done, that means that the certificate is available. That's what you're confirming, okay? So someone has to verify and confirm. Now, there is no difference for us between deep cleaning and cleaning. If you say that a place is clean and dirty, that is good enough for us. Now, if you're referring to a cleaning schedule, that's your internal process. But if you confirm that a machine that requires deep cleaning is clean, that means you've confirmed. Now, in the remarks, you can write if you want to that like deep cleaning was done or whatever it is. There is always an option to write that. But if it is not clean, is when we have to report and confirm that there is an issue. All right. Before I go and open the floor, let me look at the chat box. Do we need grease trap contractor to get job card for grease trap? No, you don't need to. The grease trap cleaning company has the functionality to enter the job details online. It can go from the grease trap cleaning portal itself. Food select column is not working because food was not added. Mylene, can we show both things, how to add a supplier as a contractor and how to add food? Food, restaurants, malls, okay, that is already addressed. Method of adding contracts, please. Okay, so let's look at method of adding contractor. So go to the supply management on the left toolbar. Mylene, start again on the left toolbar. Go to manage suppliers.
Okay.
And link your supplier first, because here your supplier is a pre-start training company. So select the company that, because you might have multiple businesses, select the business you are. Now go to step 1, select your business, select your supplier name, Ulcer Call, select the company, and then select the category. Restart cleaning. If it's water tank cleaning, select as water tank cleaning. If it's pest contract, select as pest contract. You can also combine these two, right, Mylene?
Yes, Bobby.
You can take the same supplier for multiple products.
Yes.
And select the priority. If you want to keep it as high priority, you can. This is up to you. It's up to you to define what priority it is. And then link supplier, and that supplier gets added to your portal. And the supplier, on the other hand, will also get the notification, and they have to confirm that the client is there. That's what a contract is all about. If you are both agreed, then the status below, the link color on the status will change to green. So if it is green, both parties have been on contract. Once you do this, you will be able to notify your contractor anytime from the system. So I don't see much questions on the chat window. So what I'm going to do is to open the mic up. So if you have any questions that you want to ask in the platform, in the meeting, just raise your hands and I will let you open.